is there going to be another crash coming after Friday's dump? And was the weekly candle close still indicative of a bull market for crypto? First things first, gotta be talking about Bitcoin because this is the driver of the crypto markets. If it has more room to pump, that is very good for a lot of the altcoins here. And of course, if it's gonna continue dumping from here, that's gonna be very bad for a lot of these altcoins. So I'm gonna give you guys my opinion on what happened as of yesterday's weekly candle close and why I think that this market still looks bullish based on what I'm seeing here on the charts here. Now, we're also gonna be taking a look into a few altcoin setups, which would include Anchor Network. Also, I always forget Anchor Network. We're also going to be taking a look into XEC, which is eCash, and then Sushi Swap. See what's happened in these coins, especially after that crash on Friday. I usually do the news before the altcoin setups, but today I'm running a little bit short on time. So let's just get right into the charts here, and I'm going to give you guys what I think in this market. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to Bitcoin first because this is the most important. I never trade altcoins without a clear understanding of Bitcoin. And based on what I said yesterday, I'm just going to do a recap here, okay? And I've been talking about this rising wedge, which is a bearish pattern for a very long time. And why is this important is because Bitcoin is still technically in this rising wedge. And rising wedges are bearish patterns that has a higher chance of breaking to the downside. And if it actually breaks down to the downside, let's just say by next week, for example, the price target would be about 83,000. So that could be very bad for the altcoins. Now, why am I still... So I am still long in this market. I'm long on Bitcoin. I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here, even though I got a few of my leverage positions liquidated. I have actually bottomed back and on leverage. But that is just me, and these are just my opinions, and I'm still bullish in this market. But my opinions only, like the entirety of this video, and it's not financial advice. You guys gotta form your own opinions and strategies. I know I've seen quite a few bearish comments in the comment section below. Hey, you guys think what you want, and I see the news. I see other YouTubers' content about being bullish, bearish, but at the end of the day, it's what I see on the chart that matters. And I'm going to be thinking critically about what other people say and what their supporting evidence is for what they're saying. But why am I still long in this market is because of a few factors, okay? Even though despite this bearish pattern that could have a very steep drop. Is that because the Fed has actually just started its Fed rate cut cycle back in September. And according to the CME Watch tool, which is a tool I've been showing you guys and has been very accurate. According to the CME Watch tool, based on for October, we're still seeing almost 97% chance of a rate cut. And December, as of right now, we're still looking at almost a certain rate cut for December. Okay. So this tells me, this is bullish for the markets, okay? This is going to drive more cheap money into the markets, okay? So that is one main argument I have. Another one is that this is Google Trends for the search term Bitcoin in the United States. And what I'm seeing here is our weekly data points that has been highly correlated with previous bull cycles and waves. And what we're seeing here is that retail interest has actually shot up based on that crash, okay? And it's been increasing, okay? Even before the crash. So this is another argument that has correlation with bull cycles, right? So this is another one, and of course, what I'm seeing here for this weekly time frame was that the bears actually tried to break down from this bearish pattern, as you guys can see already, for 2 weeks already. The first one was back in the week of September 22nd, and of course, the last attempt was last week, okay? Both has been unsuccessful, as you guys can see, because the candles wicked back into the pattern. That tells me that the bears actually got faked out. And another, I mean, we could just do a little bit of a candle analysis here. That crash on Friday and ending last week did not even retrace the pump the week prior. This is still looking very bullish to me, okay? Because even after that major crash, I mean, the buyers just actually bought that up, okay? And what I'm also seeing here since the rebound back in, since the drop to about 107K back on the week of August 25th, we're still seeing higher highs and higher lows on this weekly time frame. Why are higher highs and higher lows important? Because that's basically the foundation of an uptrend, right? It's not going to go straight up for an uptrend, or nor is it going to go straight down for a downtrend. And higher highs and higher lows tells me that you're still on an uptrend since this bounce here, okay? And what I could be expecting is a short squeeze that's coming up as the short sellers or the bears realize that this was a fake out for them. Okay, that tells me that it could be likely that they're going to be closing their positions, increasing buying pressure from within this pattern here. Okay, does that necessarily mean that it's going to propel the bulls to break out of this bearish pattern? Not necessarily, but I do expect some bullish price action that's going to be taking place from within this pattern, and see where it goes, okay, based on the short squeeze idea. We are on quite a few support levels as well, including the weekly 21 SMA that's also held at about 113K. So this is basically my my argument for why I'm still bullish on Bitcoin and crypto, right? Let's go ahead and go to altcoins. Altcoins here. Let's go ahead and take a look into Sushi Swap, see what's happening with Sushi Swap, alright? Let's take a look onto the monthly time frame, because we're going to do a little bit of a recap. Sushi Swap here. I talked about a double bottom pattern here on this monthly time frame. This could still be intact, right? Because we still have some time before the monthly candle closes. And if this monthly candle closes below, I would say below about 55 cents, then that would invalidate this double bottom pattern. Double bottoms are bullish. They have a higher chance of breaking to the upside. Always have to mind the downside risk of the patterns and the breakouts here, because there could be fake outs and there could be breakdowns, right? We're all talking about probabilities here. Now, the neckline of this double bottom pattern, I'm going to say it's about $2.85, just to be even here, right? So that is basically what I'm seeing for Sushi Swap. Now, let's zoom in a little bit, because we got to talk about that dump on Friday. And does Sushi Swap still look, does it still look bullish, or does it look bearish now since that dump on Friday? Now, I pointed out that there was a rising wedge quite some time ago, right? This is on the weekly time frame. And the rising wedge had a breakdown target of about 45 cents. You could basically say that we can invalidate that rising wedge pattern, because the target has been met and quite a bit more, since it dumped down to about 5 cents for sushi, but it basically rebounded. That's a tenfold increase here. Now, this is not something I see in a bear market, right? And I mean, that also, it also kind of reaffirms my beliefs here. And this is now, I also talked about a falling wedge pattern, which still looks intact. I mean, because the last week's weekly candle close basically still ended up back, I mean, very close to the within the pattern there. And we can see that the green candle for this week is already within the pattern. It's going to be a very close call. And so my opinion is that this falling wedge pattern has not been invalidated, because It looks like a very close call, but I'm going to say that the weekly candle close for from last week basically ended up back within the pattern. Now, let's just say if Sushi Swap breaks out by next week, for example, it doesn't have to, but I'm just trying to get a measure move here. For example, if it breaks out by next week, Sushi Swap price target for this smaller falling wedge pattern, it's going to be about $1.10 price target. Price targets are estimates only. There could be more, there could be less. A lot of which is going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts dumping from here, these altcoin setups are not going to matter very much. Let's go ahead and go to ANKR. What's happening with ANKR, especially after that dump? Do things still look intact? I want to mention that there has been a few patterns from within these coins that have invalidated because either they have broken down from those patterns or their price targets have been met. Okay, so it could look different from the last time I talked to you guys about it, but you guys can refer to my previous videos. Let's go ahead and take a look into ANKR here. ANKR here, the big pattern still intact. Falling wedge pattern. If it breaks out by this point, for example, then the price target would still be about over 10 cents here. Now, if ANKR, gets closer to that measure move, and if it's still far away from it, then move the measure move down along this upward trend line. I'm just trying to estimate the breakout point for if this pattern is still intact. And right now it is still intact because you guys know why? Because the price action tried to break down from this pattern, but it wicked back into the pattern. So candle wicks do not invalidate a pattern. Candle closes do, right? But candle wicks don't. And I'm talking about it on the highest time frame that the pattern is validated in. Okay, and the highest time frame this pattern is validated in, it looks like it's going to be the weekly time frame here. Let's take a look at the monthly and see if I'm wrong. Well, it looks like it could actually be validated on the monthly time frame as well, because I have 3 candle touches on the upper trend line. The first candle is close enough to me, close enough in my opinion. So it's a close call, but I'm going to say that's validated, okay? And the bottom trend line is validated. We have a lot more than 3 candle closes than touching on the bottom trend line. So actually the highest time frame that this pattern is validated in is on the monthly time frame, it looks like, without exploring longer time frames. Now, what I'm seeing here on this weekly time frame is that the bears actually got faked out here because they actually broke down from this pattern, but the bulls bought it right back up and ends back into this pattern. So this pattern is still valid. Now, price target for this pattern, like I said, price target is going to be about over 10 cents. Now, it is... now, let's take a look into the smaller falling wedge pattern I talked about. Now, this is clearly... this is clearly a candle close below the pattern here, the falling wedge pattern I talked about. And in this case, it's going to get invalidated and recharted and see what's happening with ANKR instead, okay? So could this be another falling wedge pattern if we actually rechart this? Let's take a look. Okay, so this was a bigger falling wedge pattern because we had 3 candles touching, right, on the upper and bottom trend line on this weekly time frame. And so this was an existing falling wedge pattern that I did not see, but what it is that basically ANKR tried to break down from this bigger falling wedge pattern and basically ends back right into it. So this falling wedge pattern is still valid. Falling wedges are bullish pattern that has a higher chance of breaking to the upside. And if this does, at this point here, for example, price target would be about over 2.65 cents here, price targets. Let's see if ANKR can meet this shorter price target before breaking out of this bigger one here. Okay, let's go ahead and go to eCash and see what's happening in this market. eCash here. I talked about this some time ago, and the beauty about technical analysis is that it works because I've talked about this chart quite some time ago, and it still has been ranging. And what is also amazing was the crash basically stopped right at the bottom trend line that I charted. This tells me the market sees this pattern as well and basically saw that as support and bought this coin right back up despite the crash. So this is basically what's telling me, and this is why technical analysis is. I am a firm believer in technical analysis. Of course, it doesn't work all the time, and you have to judge for yourself. But in the long run, I think this is what it is. If you want to be in this game, if you want to be trading in the long run, you have to learn technical analysis, and of course, have critical thinking as well. Now let's go ahead and I talked about a measure move that doesn't seem to have happened, right? But this pattern is still intact. So what do? I move this measure move down along this upper trend line and get an estimated measure move. If it breaks out by this point, for example, price target would still be a bunch of zeros and 824. Okay, so that looks like it's quite a bit of a multiple. I think that is 4 zeros and 8-3 almost. 4 zeros and 8-3. So that's still a pretty big target. Let's see if it gets there. Do I see a shorter term pattern that has developed? No, it basically has just been parabolic since the crash. Okay, there was a double bottom, but since then I don't see another pattern here. So this basically wraps it up for this video for eCash, ANKR, SUSHI swap. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of these coins by dropping a like, comment, subscribe, or any other coins in this market. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis, and I'll see you on the next one.